good evening and welcome. I am Maura Ruby and I can't see anyone out there, so thank you for coming. I am so sorry about the misunderstanding and the promotion. I thank those that have waited since 6 o'clock here. We're excited to host this debate. I am the president of the Greater Danbury Chamber of Commerce, which is the regional chamber, so a lot of people don't understand the correlation with Brookfield, but we are a regional chamber and we are a major component of the Brookfield market, and we are happy to be here today to host this debate. So with that, I want to introduce our timekeepers. I have Scott Farrell, Linda McCaffrey, and Linda Wagner. Thank you. In addition, I want to acknowledge a couple of people that are here in the audience. Bob Belvin, Selectman, Town of Brookfield. And Representative Marty Fonsello, who is here in the audience. And we are privileged to have Scott Benjamin here to be our moderator. Scott is great. And with that, I'll turn it over to Scott. Thank you.
We have the candidates, Republican challenger Carl Henger and Democratic incumbent Steve Dunn. First opening statement, Mr. Dunn, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Scott. Cassie and I moved here in 1983, and we love this town. And when we moved here, about 2.5 years after we moved here, I got my dream job offer to work for an investment bank in New York City. The problem was it was on Wall Street. We love this town so much, we love the schools and our neighbors. We stayed in Brookfield, and I commuted for 35 years to Wall Street. In those 35 years, I coached baseball for 12 years. I ran every single league in the ball and softball association. I coached an Odyssey of the Mind team for 7 years, and we won the States 5 times. I coached lacrosse, which I know nothing about. I coached soccer, which I know less than lacrosse about. I was involved in Boy Scouts for almost 20 years, serving as troop chair and as scoutmaster. My wife and I and our family are invested in this town. I think this is the best town in the state, and U.S. News and World Report thinks it's in the top 25 in the nation. We need to keep it that way. We need to meet all the needs of all of our residents. Our goal should be to have tax increases only to improve the lives of our residents and to pay for those services that we really, really need. And I think, along with Bob Belden and previously with Sue Slater, we always came in with budgets that were reasonable. This year, if you look at surrounding towns, Newtown had a 7.68% increase, and all the other surrounding towns had increases more than double Brookfield's. The reason for that is simple. Good planning, planning ahead of time, planning for reserves, planning for unexpected emergencies. Like last year, in the middle of the year, we were told our electric bill was going to go up $250,000 a year. Our health insurance went up 11% last year. So we face things as a town, just like residents do, that really push the envelope on us to keep our tax increases reasonable. And we've done that. And that's because I believe that Bob and I have brought professional expertise to the job. We are running a $93 million business with hundreds of employees. You have to know budgeting, you have to know forecasting, you have to know HR, you have to know how to manage people, you have to know how to do budgets, right? Our budget document that we give to the boards is 800 pages long. It's incredibly detailed, and every year we make it better. So I want to thank all of you for coming. I'd like to ask you for your support too, but let's continue to do the things right for Brookfield. Let's keep the chaos out of Brookfield. Let's treat each other with civility and kindness, which I know everyone in Brookfield is capable of doing. And if we do that, we'll only improve our town together. Thank you.
Mr. Henger, 5 minutes.
Good evening, and thank you to Scott Benjamin for moderating, to the Danbury Greater Chamber of Commerce for hosting, and to everyone who's here tonight. First, a little about myself, since many of you may not know me. My name is Carl Henger. I grew up just down the road in New Milford. I was an Eagle Scout in Boy Scout Troop 66. I played football for New Milford High School, where I was team captain my freshman year. I've spent much of my time in high school and college involved in many community theater productions throughout Connecticut, including in Brookfield, New Milford, Danbury, and Sherman. I attended Western Connecticut State University, where I graduated in 2020 with a degree in political science. In that same year, I married lifelong Brookfield resident Leanna Pizzo. We bought a house, and I moved to Brookfield. Since moving here, I've joined the Knights of Columbus and have continued my charity work and community service with them. In 2021, I ran for and was elected to the Brookfield Zoning Board of Appeals, where I've served for the past 4 years. In addition to my volunteer work, I've spent over 4 years as the inventory manager for Hamar Laser Incorporated, a multinational manufacturing company headquartered in Danbury, where I serve as the head of tracking of a multi-million-dollar portfolio of all raw materials, production, and finished goods globally. I'm running for First Selectman because I believe Brookfield deserves leadership that listens, that works hard, and that always puts our residents and our community first. Like so many of you, I want Brookfield to remain the kind of town where families can thrive, seniors feel supported, and small businesses can succeed. I didn't enter this race out of personal ambition. I entered it because too many times I've seen residents feel left out of the process, where decisions are made without enough transparency or without real input from the people most affected. I'm running for your children and for my future children, so that Brookfield remains a wonderful place not just today, but for generations to come. My background in political science and governance has taught me how to analyze complex problems, but most importantly, my time serving on and working with our boards and commissions has taught me that government works best when it's accountable, practical, and focused on results. Brookfield faces some very real challenges. Over the past decade, we've seen a rapid development of apartment complexes that raise serious concerns about overbuilding. We've seen strain on our schools, our infrastructure, and our emergency services. We've heard from seniors who want to stay in our town that they've helped build without being priced out or overlooked. These issues don't have quick fixes, but they require thoughtful leadership grounded in values, not in politics. As First Selectmen, I'll focus on 3 priorities. Number 1, responsible growth, protecting Brookfield's character while promoting home ownership and planning smartly for our future. Number 2, public safety and services, making sure our police, fire, EMS, and public works have the resources they need to keep our community strong. And number 3, transparency and trust, ensuring residents are informed that they have a seat at the table and that budgets are managed responsibly and that decisions are communicated clearly. This election isn't about partisanship. It's about whether Brookfield will have a leader who listens, who puts in the work, and who will stand up for what's best for this community. As you can see from our blue and gold yard signs, the same colors as our town seal, the same colors as our schools. Because this campaign isn't about red versus blue. It's about Brookfield's future. During my 4 years on the Zoning Board of Appeals, I've worked with members of both parties. We found common ground, had respectful disagreements, and focused on doing what's right for residents. My running mate, Alan Donnelly, has served with me on the ZBA for the past 4 years. Ask anyone on the board, Republican or Democrat, and they'll tell you he is the hardest working chairman the ZBA has ever had. Alan has grown up and raised a family here. He served in the National Guard, and he's a small business owner. And he's dedicated to helping residents and treating everyone with respect. That's the kind of leadership Brookfield deserves. Leadership rooted in civility, community, and commitment. Leadership that will keep people above politics. Brookfield shouldn't settle for fine or just okay. Brookfield deserves to be its best. And we're ready to build it together. I see a Brookfield that plans ahead, solves problems before they become crises, and invites every resident, no matter their background, political party, to take part in shaping our future. Tonight I ask you to listen with an open mind and to think about the kind of leadership Brookfield deserves, and to join me in building a future that reflects the very best of our town. Thank you.
Brookfield has an outdated police headquarters, an inadequate library, and an empty elementary school. How would you address those issues, Mr. Henger? 2 minutes.
I believe the most important issue facing Brookfield right now is a new police station, and that will be our #1 priority. And when I say a new police station, I do not mean that we'll look into building a new library. I do not mean we will spend $67 million on a new school. I mean a police station. We've been talking about this police station since 2017 when Steve Dunn first ran for his second term. Finally now, 8 years later in 2025, we have an ad hoc committee together. We need to prioritize things when we say we'll prioritize them. Still, nothing has been planned. I can present a plan here tonight. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying that it won't require input from residents. But my idea, which I will present to you after only 8 months of running instead of 8 years in the office, is that we build the new police station on the center school property. We can then have a community center later on after the police have moved into the police station, into their new police station. The old police station can become a community center. This would set it up right next to our fields, town hall, the Still River Greenway. Again, this is not a perfect plan. This is not the final decision. We need input from residents. We need input from our people. But in 8 months, it is more of a plan than the current administration has come up with in 8 years and presented to residents. Thank you.
Mr. Dunn, 2 minutes.
Thank you. When we look at this, during my previous administration of 6 years, we were just finishing up the plans and breaking ground on a new school. That school was not $67 million, it was $78 million. That limits what we can do because we don't want to take on too much debt. The bond rating agencies look very poorly on towns that can't manage their debt. And we put in a policy along with the Board of Finance to set our debt levels at no more than 10% of our total revenue. That is a very conservative way to move. When we talk about a police station and a community center, I would disagree with Mr. Hinger because we were talking about this with the Chief of Police, Jay Purcell, towards the end of my administration previously. Last night, the ad hoc police committee, and if I may mention, I'm the one who formed that committee, I'm the one who formed the community center committee. My previous administration didn't do anything on that. They presented initial plans for a police station. They're looking at a couple different locations. Our first priority should be the police station. The Police Accountability Act requires that we make changes to our police station or build a new one. But we should look at both rebuilding, reusing our existing station, and then possibly building new. We have to look at that, we have to get the costing, and then we have to make a decision as a town. We then would move on to looking at the community center. I am against putting a police station at Center School. The traffic pattern with 5 different roads all approaching the same location is not good at all. You already see it with the ambulances where they literally have to drive around cars to go to a call from the ambulance station. Thank you very much.
Mr. Hinger, 1 minute.
Well, I'm glad now at least we're talking about where to build it. Because again, the residents have not heard anything until tonight about what your plans are. I agree that the police station should take priority over a community center. I believe at your debate 2 years ago, you said the town did not have a lot of debt, and we were actually fine. We were not saddled with debt as the previous administration was claiming. Now you're saying that we have too much for these projects. If we did not bond out the millions of dollars for a new school, we would not be in the position we are right now to not afford a police station. A police station is very much doable within the next couple of years. It is possible to bond it out within either the 27 to 28 fiscal year or the 28 to 29 fiscal year without seriously impacting the residents. Thank you.
Mr. John, 1 minute.
Yeah, you know, we've been talking about building a new school replacing Huckleberry since the day I moved to Brookfield in 1883. And we finally got it done under my first administration. We have moved all expenses in the budget. Anything this year less than $300,000 was paid for with cash. We have literally moved off of, when I first came into office, in previous years, we were bonding $5,000 items. That's not right. So we need to look at all these things carefully. We're asking the police ad hoc committee. They're going to have hearings. They're going to ask residents to come in. They're going to ask them to give them their ideas. And then we will move forward with the plan. I'd like to see us go to referendum next November, because then we wouldn't have to borrow for another 2 years until we do the full plan and get it set up. Thank you.
Should the town hire a consulting firm to address these upcoming capital needs? Mr. Dunn, 2 minutes.
Yeah, I've spoken on this briefly with some people, and some people were confused that I want to hire a person, a planner. No. If you look at all the things that we're doing in town, we have a capital plan that goes out 10 years. And it lists every single capital expense that the town is going to incur. That was started by me 7 years ago. So we know what we want to spend over the next 10 years, right? But if we build a new police station, if we build a new community center, we are going to have an empty library and an empty police station. Additionally, where our EMS is right now, those are full-time employees who do not have adequate places to sleep. At some point in time, I think we're going to, in the 5 to 10 year range, probably closer to 10, probably going to need paid firemen at some point. We should plan for all of that. We should look at every single building we have, look at every single use we have, look at every single department that we have, and understand what the needs are going to be in 10 years. And that's why I'm suggesting that we look at hiring a planning company to help us write that plan. Thank you.
Mr. Hanger, 2 minutes.
I agree, we should plan for all these things. That is quite literally one of the main jobs of the first selectman, is to balance all these things, to talk with the residents, talk with the boards and commissions. We do not need to hire someone to tell us what to do, or we do not need to hire someone to tell us, hey, you probably shouldn't have left center school empty for 2 years, when it's already been done. We should have come up with a plan for center school back in 2019 when bonding was approved for the new school. I understand if there's a lot on the plate of the job of first selectman. I'm ready to put in whatever hours it takes to get the job done, because that is what the town deserves. We should not be hiring out the position to someone else. So I am firmly against hiring a town planner or a planning company, which, by the way, no one's really sure which one Steve Dunn is for, because he himself has said a town planner to the Board of Finance and has also suggested a consulting firm. 2 years ago, Steve Dunn said that he was opposed to a town manager, opposed to people taking up the work that is supposed to be that of the first selectman. His party said the same thing. Now he is saying there is simply too much going on in town, and now he needs help. Maybe instead we need a first selectman who will put in the hours necessary and speak with everyone to make sure the job gets done right the first time. Thank you.
Mr. Dunn, 1 minute.
I'm going to be dead honest with you. I work between 60 and 70 hours a week. Last night I got home at 9:45. Tonight I will get home probably 8:30, quarter to 9. I put in many, many hours. The confusion that people have when I say planner is hiring a company to help us. This is incredibly complex. What are our needs for our fields? What do all the teams need? Little League, baseball, soccer, lacrosse, all those things. There are many, many things. I'm not interested in hiring a town planner, because a town planner, a person executes the plan. We have a capital plan, we have a full budget. I think it's reasonable to say, with all the buildings and the amount of money we're going to spend, let's do it once, let's do it right, let's make sure it's right. I do resent someone saying I don't work very hard. I do. I'm sorry, Mr. Hanger. I do.
Mr. Hanger, 1 minute.
I'm not saying that you don't work hard, Steve. I'm saying that at a point you are accepting that there is a limit to what you can do. And I'm not saying that I don't have a limit either. We all have a limit on how many hours we can work. But I will push myself harder if it's necessary. You talk about how we need someone to manage our fields, and maybe we do, because when we built the new school, we got rid of 2 of them. We did not plan for that. We are actively hurting our children and not giving them as much activities. We're making it more difficult. So I understand, perhaps, why you would need a town planner or a consulting firm, since the town actively has these struggles because you have failed to plan it effectively. That does not mean that everyone is incapable of doing the same job. Thank you.
is your position on the proposed expansion of the Iroquois gas compressor? Mr. Hanger, 2 minutes.
This is an area that I think Steve Dunn and I both agree on. I am firmly against the expansion of the gas compressor station. I believe that this is an issue that we need to be willing to work across the aisle on in every regard. I will work with our town representative, or with our state representative, with our state senators. I will work with Johanna Hayes. I will work with our federal senators. I will work with our governor. It does not matter what your party is. We need to get the job done. I would be very interested in bringing together both the RTC and the DTC to figure out how this is handled. Our current administration says they're against the compressor station, and maybe they are. But Steve Dunn has often ignored our Republican state senators, our Republican state representatives, when they are looking for help with the issue. He wants it to be a single party solving the problem so that the Democrats can take credit for it. This is not about a tit for tat. This is not about partisanship. I believe we need to all come together and do whatever it takes to put a stop to it. Thank you.
Mr. Dunn, 2 minutes.
Yeah, I also am against the gas compressor, and if it has to go in, they should meet the requirements. What we want is electric compressors to keep 14.9 tons of particulate out of the air every single month. We want ambient air testing both before, during, and after the installation of the new compressors. We want better security at that building, and we want real-life people there. This is an extremely dangerous place. It's very close to one of our schools, and we filed for an adjudicatory hearing as a town. We got 82 residents to vote to come in and sign that petition for an adjudicatory hearing. We're working closely with many groups. I have to say that neither of our state representative or state senator has come to me and asked for any advice or offered any support. I don't know where that comes from. We need to work together, and Carl, you're right in this. As a town, when you cross town hall's doors, I ask people and say to them, you're not a Republican, you're not a Democrat anymore, you're a resident of the town doing what's best for this town. And that's what we always expect. And literally almost all of our boards act and behave in exactly that way. That is a good thing. I don't think people remember, when I took office, the Board of Finance was not talking to the Board of Ed for years. Even during budget season, they didn't even talk to the Board of Ed about their budget. They just make decisions about the Board of Ed budget with no consultation. We have regular meetings between the Board of Finance and the Board of Ed. They have a good relationship. We've developed an ability to hold reserves back on the town side in case the schools need money, and if the schools do, they come to us and we give it to them. It's a great relationship. I meet weekly with the school superintendent to discuss issues in general. I meet with any resident that want to come to my office. So please do. Thank you.
Mr. Hanger, 1 minute.
I agree. I think the Board of Finance and Board of Ed do a great job. Again, this is an issue, the pipeline that is, an issue that I believe both sides agree on and can find common ground on and should be working together on. What I don't agree with is Steve Dunn trying to take the credit for the Board of Ed and Board of Finance talking. I believe that credit should go to the Board of Ed and the Board of Finance. Our great Board of Finance chair, Glenn Rooney, as well as Brianna Rucco, who's also running for re-election. For Steve Dunn to take the entirety of the credit himself for making sure the board of two other boards talk when they're doing most of the work seems a little silly to me. Thank you.
Mr. Dunn, 1 minute.
Yeah, I think you might be missing something, Carl. The budget that the Board of Finance gets is created by me. Then it goes to the Board of Selectmen, then it goes to the Board of Finance. I didn't say I was taking credit for the Board of Finance working with the Board of Ed, but I was an integral part of that, working with both parties to say, hey, we can do better, we can work together. And in the spirit of bipartisanship, I think most people know that on the Board of Finance there's 4 Democrats. I actively encouraged them to appoint Glenn Rooney, a Republican, as their chair, because he was the most competent person at the time. We have a lot of new people on that board. And Glenn has done a good job. And he has, for the most part, been bipartisan and worked well with people and done the right things for Brookfield. So I will take some credit for getting those boards to start talking to each other because I'm the one who started that. Thank you.
What is your position on adding communications towers in Brookfield? Mr. Dunn, 2 minutes.
Yeah, we've gone back and forth on this. We had a hearing, an information meeting just recently for Homeland Tower, who wants to put a tower on 42A Hidden Brook Road. If you remember last year, Homeland Tower came to us and we proposed to the town that perhaps we put a tower back 1,800 feet from the school, back in the woods back here, keep it 1,800 feet from the school, keep it 800 feet from any single residence in order to limit the aesthetic damage that comes from these things. No one wants to live next to a cell tower. People also have health concerns. Unfortunately, the siting council doesn't look at health concerns at all. It was clear from the town that they did not want that there. The offer that Homeland Tower made to the town was also ridiculously poor, so the Board of Selectmen decided not to move forward with it. And at the time, I think most people understood that they will find some place to put a tower. Now they've got somebody, a lease of 42A Hidden Brook. I'm incredibly concerned that the town, similar with the gas compressor, Iroquois gas compressor, and the cell tower, the town has literally no power except the power of persuasion, asking people, begging people to do things. The only entity that can stop a cell tower in Brookfield is a siting council. And over 600 applications, they approved 590 of them immediately. The other 10, I'm told, were approved after some slight changes. Move it here, do this, do another thing. So they typically approve almost every single tower application. And the reason being, the tower companies only have to do two things. Have a place, which they already have, they've got a lease, and prove that the need is there. Now, they have shown maps, coverage maps from Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, that shows that the northeast portion of Brookfield needs cell service. So they're going to go forward. We're going to file with the siting council. We're going to try to get this stopped, but I'm just being honest with you, it's going to be incredibly difficult.
Mr. Hanger, 2 minutes.
We do not need a cell tower on private property. I will agree with Steve Dunn on this. If we are going to be forced to have a cell tower, it should be on public land where we can ensure that it is put somewhere that is away from residents. Steve Dunn says that he proposed this plan to the town, but this is not accurate. It did not go to the town. Steve Dunn and Bob Belden voted the project down before it was sent to the town. It never went to town meeting. It should have gone to town meeting. We should have had the first selectman championing the project and telling residents, come to the town meeting, vote for this project, or else it's going in your backyard. Instead, they stayed quiet, they voted it down, and oh, now it's going up in our backyard. So we need to work closely with the cell tower companies. We need to make sure that if the cell tower is going in, it is going in somewhere that we approve of. And I would be very interested in continuing to reach out to Homeland Towers and trying to offer them an alternative solution, because, as Steve Dunn says, the siting council most likely will approve the project regardless of what the town does. This is why we need to negotiate with them and negotiate with our residents and keep them informed of what's going on and not pretend we can just wish the tower away, that if we just vote it down at a town meeting or don't bring it up in the first place, that it won't be a problem for the future. Communication, as always, is key. Thank you.
Mr. Dunn, 1 minute.
Yeah, I think there's a confusion here. We had a hearing in this room for over 3.5 hours on the placement of the tower behind the high school. I think about 300 residents were here. And we talked it out, and everybody came out and gave their ideas and their concerns and what they liked and what they didn't like, and only one person liked it, right? But you can't say that we didn't communicate to the town. We brought it out to the town. We had 300 people here. We sent notices to everyone. And here's the thing, the offer that we got from Homeland Tower to put the tower back here would not have paid the town a penny in rent for the property, in what a lot of people consider open space, right? Back behind Gursky, for 12.5 years. That was an absurd offer. That was why we did not move it forward. It was clear residents didn't want it there. So you can't say that we didn't communicate with residents. We did. Thank you.
Mr. Hanger, 1 minute.
If you were sure residents didn't want it there, it should have gone to town meeting for the town residents to vote on. Again, it sounds like the town residents at this meeting were not aware that the alternative was the tower was going in someone's backyard. You say many people were against it, and I understand that many people are against the tower. This is why we need to be clear when we have the presentation. Look, if you vote this down, someone will put it in their backyards. It will go in your community if you do nothing. We need to do something. If you don't like this, please offer us an alternative. Please talk with us. Please, if you don't like the 3 plans we present to you tonight, write us, tell us what you think we should do, contact Homeland Towers, offer them a different location. Thank you.
Should Brookfield have a townwide moratorium on multifamily housing? Mr. Hanger, 2 minutes.
Absolutely. I think what the zoning commission did last year by approving a multifamily housing moratorium in the town center district or the Four Corners area was a great start. However, we are quite literally kicking the can down the road because developers are now looking at the federal road corridor. They're looking at other areas for large multifamily housing projects. We have seen over Steve Dunn's administration about 1,000 new units of apartment or multifamily housing either approved, planned, or built. It is time to say, enough is enough. We need to focus on our infrastructure first. We need to focus on our emergency services. We cannot just keep building and building and building forever. So a moratorium town-wide for multifamily housing projects is the only way that we can ensure, at the very least, that we can catch up. But preferably, I would like to see us focus more on single-family houses, on home ownership, rather than rental. New Milford, for example, recently passed what they call the homestead exemption, which is where they will give residents whose primary residence is in New Milford a tax cut of up to 35% of their property's value, or rather they will reduce the property's value by up to 35% if you live in the town. Meanwhile, Brookfield offers tax incentives to developers of these multifamily projects. That's why we have so much development. If instead of offering tax incentives to developers, we offer them to homeowners, perhaps we will see a change in policy and a change in development in this town. Thank you.
Mr. Dunn, 2 minutes.
Thank you. Just one thing to make clear. In that meeting we had with the 300 residents about the cell tower, I was very clear and said more than once, understand, Homeland Towers will find somebody to rent land from. They will. If they don't go on town property, they will find somebody, because there is a number that almost anyone would say, okay, put it in my yard, just for clarity purposes. Understand that it was my administration when I first started, we had a gentleman come in named Tom, and he wanted to build a 7-story building in our downtown, 777 Federal Road. I stopped him. And as I looked at it, I said, you know what he's going to use? He's going to use a law called 830G, where if you set a certain side of your number of your apartments aside as affordable, according to the AMI, which is the average median income of Fairfield County, then you can build anything you want. You can bypass everything in zoning law, every single planning, except for health and safety, things like sprinklers and with the doors. I stopped that. I got an 830G moratorium, which stopped all affordable housing for 4 years. As I was leaving office the last time, I got a second 830G moratorium, which stops affordable housing in Brookfield. Brookfield is only one of 2 towns who have done that. The zoning board did put in a multifamily housing moratorium, right, while we redid our plan of conservation and development. And that's because I asked them to. I said, guys, we're building too fast. This is getting to be too much. And as far as tax incentives, there's only one entity, and it's now expired. Brookfield Village was given a tax incentive by the prior administration to me. That is the only tax incentive that's ever taken effect. And the reason being is we wrote one for 731, we wrote one for Branson, but they didn't meet our strict requirements, so they did not get that. Thank you.
Mr. Hanger, 1 minute.
Other areas such as the food emporium were offered a tax incentive. I believe it was approved, and then later they found out that it was not qualified for. Whether or not these properties qualify for the tax incentive does nothing to stop builders from coming in. It entices them to try to reach the tax incentive. As for the 830G moratorium, while this is great, the reason the state offers 830G moratoriums, the reason Brookfield is one of only 2 towns to receive the 830 moratorium twice, is because we are so eager to build affordable apartments. They realize they don't need to twist Brookfield's arm because Brookfield builds more affordable housing than any other town in Connecticut. We are expanding so rapidly, they don't need to incentivize us or force us to do otherwise. That's not a reason to praise Steve Dunn for stopping development. That is just proof positive that he is causing so much development in the first place. Thank you.
Mr. Dunn, 1 minute.
Yeah, when you look at all the development in Brookfield, for example, the development behind Dollar General, 120 units, 20% of it affordable, that was approved before any of us were in office. Most of the development in town was approved before I took office. Most of it, like 80%. 731 Federal Road, the food emporium, did get approved while I was in office. And there's a reason for that. If we go back to 1980, when we got the bypass, when Jody Rell, the governor from Brookfield, wonderful woman, got that bypass put in, it allowed the town fathers to look at our Four Corners area and say, we have an opportunity to build from scratch a beautiful downtown. And that was their plan. And that's why they zoned it that way. They created a town center district. They created the zoning to build that. This has been going on for 40 years. And it's just now starting to come to fruition. Now, I understand that some things look too big, too much. I agree. And that's why I asked for that moratorium. Thank you.
Should Brookfield have a fire EMS ordinance? Mr. Dunn, 2 minutes.
Yes, I think we should. We've been working on this with the fire departments. We had a committee comprised of the 2 chiefs of the fire companies, the chief of the EMS, the chief of police, and Bob Belden as leader on that, running that committee. And they spent about a year looking at the needs of the town, looking at other towns, what they have, and they came up with a proposed ordinance that was, and this needs to be said, approved unanimously by every leader of fire, police, and EMS. They endorsed it. We brought it forward, and there was a lot of concern on the part of the rank and file because I don't think that they got the full story on it. So we pulled it off the table. But when you are funding organizations and the fire commission, I see them as an advocate for the fire department. The fire department comes to them, they look at their budget, just in the budget, they'll look at other things too. But they look at their budget, they go through it, and they bring it to the town. They're an advocate for the fire companies. Say, hey, we've looked at their budgets. We've looked at what they need. This is what they need, and it's no fooling around. This is what they really need. And we've done a lot of work with the fire companies. If you remember, under our administration is when we went from getting a small break on your taxes, right? And for the younger guys, they only got taxes off on their cars, so they got $100 off, right? And other guys got a little bit more, to giving them a stipend. Because we want our firemen to be appreciated. They do great work. And we'll have to look at that stipend again. We haven't raised it in 8 years. But these guys do great work. And we're trying to do what is right by them. And we're not going to put a fire commission or fire ordinance in until we have the agreement of everybody. Thank you.
Mr. Hanger, 2 minutes.
Yes, it's very important that we have the agreement of everybody before we put in a fire/EMS ordinance. The initial project, when it came time for a vote, as Steve Dunn said, many members of the fire company came out and said, we have not had time to read it, we have not had time to see it, or simply, we don't like it because of certain things that are in it. And a commission that is there to advocate for the fire companies and EMS would be a great thing. However, the commission that was presented that night was one that would instead add more red tape to the fire companies and EMS. Instead of them being able to go directly to the Board of Finance, as they currently do, and who they themselves say have a great relationship with the Board of Finance, or rather, the EMS and fire companies have a great relationship with the Board of Finance. Instead, they would need to go to this commission to ask for resources, and this commission would decide whether those resources are worthy of being asked to the Board of Finance. If we are going to have an advocacy group, let it be an advocacy group. Let it be chaired, not just 2 of the 5 members of Fire or EMS, but a majority of the members be of Fire or EMS, to ensure that their voices are heard and they're not shushed by the majority, which would be, in the case of this presented ordinance, appointed by the first selectman. The Fire and EMS Commission should focus on fire and EMS, not severing their ties with the town. Thank you.
Mr. Dunn, 1 minute.
When we look at these things, we have to understand that Brookfield is always in flux. I'm not always going to be in office. The Board of Finance is not going to be in office. The Board of Ed is probably going to be comprised of other people, and so is the Board of Finance. And when you put something like a fire commission in with an ordinance that is there to support the firefighters, and we make sure we get their support and their understanding and their buy-in, they serve as an advocate for those firefighters. And that's important because you never know what's going to happen with the Board of Finance. They're elected. They could change every 2 years. Their ideas could change every 2 years. That's one of the things, that's why we put in a written policy on spending. We put in a written policy on bonding. We put a written policy on a lot of things so we have guidance for those boards in the future. Thank you.
Mr. Hanger, 1 minute.
The Fire and EMS Commission is also a commission that would be in flux. It is also a commission that could change every 2 years. Every time a new first selectman wins election, they could simply appoint 3 of the 5 new members of the Fire and EMS Commission. This doesn't solve the problem. As soon as a different first selectman takes over who is less supportive of Fire or EMS, they could appoint 3 of the 5 members to stop whatever the Fire or EMS is doing. This is why if we're making a fire commission, it should have a majority Fire and EMS members. Thank you.
What will you do to increase the municipal grand list? Mr. Hanger, 2 minutes.
I think the biggest areas to focus on increasing the grand list are, rather than a lot of more multifamily or affordable housing, we should focus on economic development. We should look at the Berkshire Corporate Park. There are areas of town that can be developed without adding a ton of new residents, without adding a ton of traffic. We can find ways to improve the community commercially, instead of simply continuing to bring in hundreds, if not thousands of residents and putting a strain on our police, our fire, our EMS, and our infrastructure. Thank you.
Mr. Dunn, 2 minutes.
Yeah, I agree that we would support bringing more businesses into Berkshire Corporate Park, which Greg Seiner and his family own. We did bring in Branson. It's the only company, I think, that's been brought into Brookfield's part of Berkshire Corporate Park in 30 years. We did bring that. They pay us over $800,000 a year in taxes. I would love to see more corporations go in there, and we did offer them a tax incentive. It was a very strict tax incentive to come, because an entity like Branson Ultrasonic, they're there from 9 to 5. You don't need to respond to them on nights. You don't need to respond to them on weekends. So you have limited need for police and fire, which is a good thing. When you look at the grand list growth, we have, look at Brookfield. We are pretty much built out on the residential. I have seen about 15 houses be built in the last 5 or 6 years, but it's really hard to find land to build on. So that's why you're seeing the development go into the federal road corridor, which with the forefathers, that's what they planned. And so that's, I think, where you're going to get your growth. There's not a lot of houses you can build. We're going into the reval next year, and as part of that reval, we're going to do a much more intensive look, particularly on the lake houses, to make sure that they're priced properly. Those are going to go up significantly. I think everybody's value, if you look at the price of houses, is pretty high now. If you remember back, there have been 2 or 3, at least 2 times where prices in Brookfield have gone down significantly. They have. Commercial property isn't affected as much as residential by downturns in the economy, because their taxes are based on, are revenue based. So I'd like to build more. I'd love to see more going to Berkshire Corporate Park. And Greg Snyder's here, so I'll ask him after what he can do for us. Thank you.
Mr. Henger, 1 minute.
So we agree, tax incentives help bring in developers. They help bring in business. Again, we have tax incentives in place for multifamily housing, and yet we wonder why so much multifamily housing is coming in. If we remove the tax incentive, perhaps we will have less multifamily housing being built. Steve Dunn says he built a handful of houses, single-family homes, have come in over his tenure. As I said, almost 1,000 units of multifamily housing in the same time frame have come in. We should focus on single-family housing first, on home ownership. This is what New Milford's doing, as far as making sure that the taxes of residential property stay at a reasonable rate. The New Milford's new policy makes it so that, as I said, up to 35% of your home's value is reduced when you pay your property taxes. This is one possible innovation we should look into adding here. We should be helping our residents, not the developers of multifamily homes, and not all this additional traffic. Thank you.
Mr. Dunn, 1 minute.
Yeah, when you look at what New Milford did, they passed the Homestead Act, and if you read it, it's a little confusing, but they passed it, and they have not set any amounts that they would cut people's taxes. They have not done that. Their own town attorney, at the meeting where they approved that, said expect lawsuits on this, because commercial property owners are going to sue, are going to say, no, you can't tax me at a different rate than a residential. You can't do that, right? I'm only open 8 hours a day. You have services 24 hours a day. So they could have a really good argument there. I think it is such a new law, it will be challenged, but I would like to look at something like for anyone who is 70 or older on a fixed income under a certain level, that we fix their taxes at the level when they turn 70. Give them a break. That's who's really hurting in Brookfield, are the people who are on fixed income, and we should help them more. We have 2 programs now, but we need more. Thank you.
What are your executive qualifications for the position of First Selectman? Mr. Dunn, 2 minutes.
Yeah, hi. I retired as a vice president and group executive at J.P. Morgan's investment bank. As that, I was in charge of about $2.3 billion in assets for clients, including the single largest client that the bank had. I managed hundreds of people. I managed a budget of about $200 million. I was in charge of HR, marketing, sales, relationship management, and client service across the Western Hemisphere for banks, sovereigns, which is nations, and corporations. I have 40 years experience in managing. I have 8 years of managing Brookfield itself. And you need all those skills. You are running a $93 million business. You have to have those skill sets. You have to be able to say, I have managed people. I have managed big budgets. I have managed finance. I have managed borrowing. I have managed a lot of things that you need to do. And those are my qualifications. Thank you.
Mr. Henger, 2 minutes.
Well, admittedly, it is certainly hard to keep up to 40 years of management when you are only 30 years old. But all the same, I do have 4 years of being the inventory manager for Hamar Laser. As I said at the beginning, a multinational corporation. We have multi-million-dollar portfolio globally that I keep track of all the inventory for. Steve Dunn talks a lot about his experience before he became First Selectman of managing people. However, when he first became First Selectman in 2015, one of his first acts as First Selectman was to attempt to fire Bill Leverance, our town controller at the time. He was told by our HR director firm that you cannot just fire people willy-nilly, you need to give them a performance improvement plan, you have to find a reason to fire them, or else they risk suing the town and costing us money. Steve Dunn's years of experience in this corporation did not teach him how to fire people, something that you would expect he should know how to do after so long in the corporate field. When he reassumed office in 2023, his first action was to fire Fern, our HR director, and now the town is getting sued for $1.5 million because it appears as if this was retaliation for what she did during the previous administration. This is not someone that is using their experience wisely when it results in lawsuits. Experience is good, of course. It's very important, but only when it is tempered with the wisdom. Thank you.
Mr. Dunn, 1 minute.
It is always incredibly difficult to release people. You are affecting their lives, you're affecting the lives of their families, and I've never done that without a lot of careful consideration. When I first joined Brookfield, 3 days after I joined Brookfield, I was told we were missing $3.3 million of our $5 million general fund. It was just gone. Mr. Leverance told me that. He was the director of finance for 5 years. It took him 5 years to find that. That's not acceptable. We were not closing our books at all, ever, and that's why the $3.3 million kept over and over and over not being seen. Mr. Leverance was managing the town using an Excel spreadsheet. Now, he was very, very good at Excel spreadsheets, but he was not using our Municipal system, which has built-in checks and balances and controls to make sure that not a penny is spent that isn't authorized. Thank you.
Mr. Henger, 1 minute.
Bill Leverance was the one who found out we were missing millions of dollars. It was previous controllers that were causing the issue in the first place. Steve Dunn rewarded Bill for solving the issues of his predecessors by removing him from office and appointing someone else. This is not how you do business. Good job, thanks for the help, get lost. We need people that will work with the people they manage, that will find solutions to problems, and not just kick someone to the curb without the proper process being followed every time something doesn't work out. Thanks.
Closing statements, Mr. Henger, 3 minutes.
Brookfield is a good town, but Brookfield deserves to be its best. Yes, we built a new school, but it came at a high cost, and we left Center School empty for 2 years. Brookfield deserves to be its best. Yes, we've cleaned up the Four Corners area, but overdevelopment of apartments has caused traffic and a strain on our infrastructure and services. Brookfield deserves to be its best. Yes, we talked about a new police station for years, but we're still waiting for anything to get presented or done. Brookfield deserves to be its best. Yes, progress has been made, but lawsuits and missteps have drained time, money, and trust. Brookfield deserves to be its best. I'm not here to tell you that Brookfield is failing. I'm here to tell you that good enough is not good enough. Not for our families, not for our future, not for a town that has so much potential. I want to raise my family here, and I want your families to want the same for generations to come. That means planning ahead, investing wisely, and leading with transparency, accountability, and energy. Because leadership isn't just about talking at meetings, it's about showing up for people. It's listening, it's solving problems, it's making sure every single voice in this town matters. And I'm ready to put in the work. Whether it's 60, 80, or 120 hours a week, I'll give Brookfield everything I have, because Brookfield deserves to be its best. So the choice before you is simple. Do we settle for the same path, or do we aim higher? Do we wait until our problems become crises, or do we face them now together? Brookfield is a good town, but if you believe as I do that Brookfield deserves to be its best, then vote row B and let's build a better Brookfield together. Thank you.
Mr. Dunn, 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. All the things that Carl said are right, but Brookfield is not a good town. Brookfield is a great town. This is the best place I've ever lived. And remember, everything we do, particularly in the Four Corners, we are doing for the next 60 to 70 years. Those buildings will be there. We need to do more planning. I agree. We should, because the planning is what helps you get an incredibly good result. And we need to do that. And we are going to do that. And we continue to do that. We now have a 10-year capital plan. We didn't have that when I took office, right? We have a police ad hoc committee. We have a community center ad hoc committee. Nothing happened for the 2 years prior to me coming back in office. Nothing was done. Center School was planned to be empty when we built Candlewood Lake Elementary School. That was part of the plan. We knew that. We saw it out. We knew we were not going to be able to rebuild a police station or Center School for a community center until we had the wherewithal and the ability and the plans to do that. We are planning to do that. We are going to do that. And what I want to make sure, and this is one of the things I've done my entire career, is act civilly, with kindness, listen to everyone. You're entitled to your own opinions, you are, but you're not entitled to your own facts. So I would say to you, we have on the Democratic slate put together a slate of really, really competent people with many, many years of experience. And they will do a great job for you. And they will do it in a bipartisan way. So thank you very much for coming. And if you want to talk to me, come to my office. Thank you. Good night.
Thanks to the candidates, Brookfield High School, producer Dan Secor, and the staff and volunteers of the Greater Danbury Chamber of Commerce. Please be sure to vote. I'm Scott Benjamin. Thanks for joining us.